5 more minutes. Hello, anybody on right now? Oh, maybe nobody's on. They're like, I'll come back later when it's actually running. I want to wait a little bit. Wait till the actual time. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. You might have heard that. That was a firecracker. Because of Juneteenth. I don't think that was a gunshot. But it could have been, America, South. People be shooting, but I think that was a fireworks. Because, Juneteenth celebration. Supplying my bug spray. Stay aggressive, these bugs. They don't know how to quit. They don't be quitting, man. Hey, kitty. It's a stray cat. A bunch of stray cats here. We'll start at 6 on the hour. Because, I'll just keep my schedule. Hey, kitty. Okay. My little bullet points. Okay, so hello. Welcome to, let's see. Put this microphone close. Okay, I'm just trying to see. Make sure the microphone is. Because here it is right here. What? See? There it is. Oh, I'm already peeking. I just want to get it outside the frame, but I want to get it close enough that the sound will pick up. Okay, I think I might need to back this up. Okay. Yeah, so let me know if you can hear me, and it's a little far away. And if you have problems hearing me, let me know. I was checking some videos, previous videos, and I had a delay on my voice. I think that was the abortion one. Yeah, I think that was just bad internet connection, I think. Oh well, these things happen. Yeah, so welcome to the Black Ponder. This is a live stream. I'm here on my porch again. Last weekend we had to cancel because power went out. MLGW, Memphis Gas, Light, and Water. That's what they're called. The utility company here in Memphis, Tennessee. Are they the best utility company? No, they're not. And power will go out in certain neighborhoods. Kind of interesting, predominantly black neighborhoods. Power will go out more so than others. It's true. You can check, go to their website, mlgw.com. They give you the radar and everything. It's funny how, the predominantly black and low income neighborhoods are the ones that are getting the most blackouts and power outages. But, I could go on and on about that. That could be a live stream all on its own. But yeah, the power went. Sometimes we'll have these really torrential downpours, which is not unusual here in Memphis. They'll just be very quick, but really hard downpours of rain, and it'll last maybe 20 minutes or so. And then certain neighborhoods like mine, power just go out, and sometimes it'll go out for it'll go out in the afternoon, and it'll last all the way up to the next day afternoon. It'll be a whole day, and it's wow, really? The United States of America still dealing with power situation. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I didn't even know. I was because the power went out yesterday morning too. In the early morning, I'm oh man, got to be careful. So it's it's going to be intermittent rain storms here currently. So if the video just ends abruptly, I'm just letting you know that's what's going to happen. But we're here now, so let's talk about it. Today we're going to be talking about veganism as a philosophy, right? The philosophy of veganism, not just the practice, but the philosophy. And I just thought that was kind of interesting to talk about, and I'll give you some background information about my experience with it. So personally, I'm married to my wife is vegan, and my daughter, she's vegan too. Am I vegan? I try. There's no meat in the household, no animal products being consumed in the household, right? However, so here's the thing. I live in Memphis, Tennessee, the South. Memphis, Tennessee has the World Championship of barbecue. They have that barbecue World Championship. They have that. I didn't know it either until I moved there. It takes place here. Meat is all over the place here, and I don't buy meat, purchase it, but people will offer you meat for free. I also work, in the office for just one of those generic companies. I work for FedEx. That's my day job, right? And they have I work in their corporate buildings, and they'll have meetings and events, and they'll serve meat, and it's I'm not. Am I gonna abstain? Am I gonna be no, thank you, I'm vegan? I can't do it. If you're gonna give me free food, I'm gonna consume it. Right? But I won't pay for the food. Right? So I guess technically I'm not like 100% vegan, but my meat consumption and animal product consumption has drastically dropped because my family. And I'll tell you straight up, like I applaud. I'm too weak. I was born, and so were they. My wife and daughter. They were born. My daughter is adopted, so she, her family before we adopted her, uh, she, they ate meat, right? And my wife was born, her family when she was growing up, they ate meat, right? But they were able, they're able to abstain. Yeah. I'm not weak enough. I mean, I'm not strong enough. But I'm trying. I'm trying. But I will say, like, I respect and admire vegans. And a lot of times they see the people hating on vegans, and they're like, oh, they're just a bunch of stuck up snobs, and they're jerks, and they're like, they moralize everything. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I think veganism is pretty valid, and I support veganism. Maybe one day I'll be strong. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to be strong enough because I do support the stance, the vegan stance. And I guess that's what I want to talk about, the vegan stance. Like, what is the vegan stance? What is it? Like, that's what we'll talk about. So that's a little intro. So this is a live stream, Black Ponder, a philosophy channel in case you're new or you're watching and you're like, who is this guy? Yeah, I do philosophy on YouTube, and I'm trying to I usually just do videos of philosophical texts, but I'm trying to level up my philosophy skills. So I'm trying to see if I can engage with people in more of a conversation where not so much talking at you, but talking like with you. I do it the live streams. I also do a lot more talking in person, which is about philosophy. I'm trying to become like an actual philosopher, rather than a philosophy hobbyist, philosophy enthusiast. So this is my way of doing it. So feel free to comment in the chat box if you want. If not, also if you just want to chill and listen to what I'm saying, that's fine too. I'll just say my spiel, and if I'm done, I'm done. And if somebody got some questions, feel free to answer. And if you also, we sometimes go on tangents and we change subjects. That's cool too. I'm not like, I'm not going to be like, we can only talk about this. If you want to just throw up some random question, that's cool too. But I usually eventually steer back to the topic. But this is a hangout session. We're just chilling. We're just, relaxing. But yeah, philosophy, veganism. Before I even met my, my wife, like I had friends who were vegan. I'm from San Francisco Bay Area, in California, and that vegan, that's not a strange thing where I'm from. Like, it might be more unusual in certain places like the South. Although here in Memphis, they got several vegan restaurants. They have actually a vegan festival. They got multiple vegan festivals every year. So there's a thing here too. But yeah, it's not like something that's crazy or unusual. So I while growing up and in my young adult years, I had several friends who were vegan. And so people, why does one become vegan? For many reasons. Right. I knew people who were vegan because it was their religion. Right. Literally, like some Hindus that I knew growing up. They were telling me like, hey, that's just what I believe in, and it was just that simple. A lot of them, honestly, like some of the buddies they didn't really think it through. Much like, I know a lot of people who go to church, and they go to church every Sunday, and they don't really think about Christianity. They just kind of show up just because that's what they've always done. And it's the same thing with some of my friends. I'm sure there's people who kind of become vegans due to religious reasons. I'm sure many of those people really do think it through and have really a critical thought process with that type of way of living, but not the people I hung out with or grew up with or the young adults. Do I still know? Currently, I talk to them on Facebook and such. They're just like, that's just how I was raised. That's we just never had meat in the house, and I just got used to it. And they even like, I don't really miss meat. Meat kind of doesn't like, I don't find it that appetizing. I'm cool, right? So there's those people, and I also have some people that I know at a young age. They're like, yeah, I'm just vegan because I always was vegan. So there's that people, because I personally know people who are like that. They're like, they don't really use it as a moral issue. It's just like, yeah, it's just that's something that I do. And then you have other people who just do it for health reasons, right? I know some people that are like that. They're like, I'm just trying to stay healthy, contrary to some kind of wrong-headed opinions about like, well, with being vegan, you're not able to get protein, or like you get certain deficiencies. That's actually not true, right? I mean, maybe you don't know, but you can definitely live a very healthy. It's actually very healthy to live vegan. You can get all the nutrition, and you can also take supplements are cool, right? I mean, lots of people who eat meat also take supplements, right? They take the one a day vitamins and such, and the betas pills and all that stuff. So a lot of vegans will take a lot of these vitamin pills and supplements to complement. But lots of people do that whether they're vegan or not. So you can definitely live a very healthy lifestyle, nutrition-wise, as a vegan. You're not really missing much, like contrary to what a lot of people would say, like, well, they don't get protein. No, there's plenty of beans, for example, beans and legumes. They provide a lot of protein, right? So then there's that, and then there's people, so that's another reason why people are vegan. And then there's more so people like my wife or my daughter who are vegan for moral reasons, right? They're like, they're animal lovers, right? And they wait for this fire truck to pass. All right, they actually waved at me. That's funny. This fire truck passed. I don't know how loud it was. It might not have been that loud. But yeah, they've watched. They know the cruelty, the factory farms, and how they really torture these animals, which they do. We're talking about Oscar Mayer and like Foster Farms and all these giant industry farm factories that basically do like treat animals less than objects. Really, they just torture them. They just live horrible existences. As we all know that this is happening, right? It's not like a surprise. Some people like to put the blinders on and like, well, I just don't even think about that. But if you really take some time and really think about it, like, yeah, if you buy meat at a grocery store, like just a regular grocery store, the animal, the meat that you're eating was probably, an animal suffered tremendously for that product that you bought. I mean, that's just, odds are that's the case. It's very high. So there's that aspect where it's like, well, I know it's just so people like my wife and daughter, like I don't want to be a part of that, right? I don't want to. I don't want to be involved in the cruelty of animals and that kind of thing. Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, hello, Kendra. Factory farming is horrendous. Yeah, no, it's true. It's pretty bad. And all you gotta do is look at like all these videos. I mean, all these movies that show. A lot of them are free on YouTube. Actually, you just look at like, if you really want to know. I mean, they'll show like live footage of like all the horrible things that it's not a secret, right? Yeah, so we can talk about buying local, right? That's something I want to get into. how do I get into that? But what was I? Before I get into that, there was another. Oh yeah. hmm Yeah, people don't know, and it's true. Lots of people don't know. Um, that is true. That is true. Some people really just don't. They just like they buy the meat and they don't realize. So there's that. There are the people who don't know. I actually know people. Most people I know here in the South who eat meat a lot. They know. They know. They just don't. They don't really want to. Think about it. They're like, oh, whatever. Really, like that's what happens. Like when I talk to people who eat meat, because this is the South barbecue capital of the world, Memphis, and I'll bring that up, and they're like, they'll just wave it off. They'll just shrug their shoulders. Like it's not like they don't know, right? They just like, be a little bit more. You bring it up, and they treat you like a child. They're like, oh, don't talk about it like that. Are you serious? Like, no, I'm serious. but it's true. There are people who don't know, and then they realize what's really going on with animal cruelty, and they're like, I think I'll not eat meat. I do think though there are plenty of people who like they'll watch those videos and kind of get the what they call it cognitive what dissonance. How do you say? Um, Cognitive dissonance. Right? They're just like, I'll disassociate myself, because that's the thing people do all the time. People like know kind of what's happening, but they're like, let me just separate. Let me like not think about it, and then you're able to do a lot of stuff, right? Oh, hello, Cody. You've been vegan for so long. Okay. Yeah, it's just kind of a day-to-day thing. And then I wonder, Cody, was it when you decided like, oh, I'm gonna be a vegan? Like, what was the reason? Or because I know people who are just like, I just decided one day. It wasn't really, it wasn't. As some people have told me, like, it wasn't even like a moral thing. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna be vegan, and then that's just what they're used to, right? Uh, but the other thing I wanted to bring up was the environmentalism aspect. Because our consumption of meat products is a significant factor of carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide emissions into the environment, is causing the whole like greenhouse effect. So if we were to dress as a human species, if we were like let's say humanity decided that we're not going to consume meat anymore, we're just going to go straight vegan, like that would tremendously like mitigate a lot of like the climate change stuff, because it's not the only thing that contributes to global warming, but it is a huge factor. The whole the raising, the breeding, and even the feeding, and having these big giant farms with all these animals that are being consumed, like that, a lot of that creates a lot of climate change, or what do you call it, like those kinds of chemicals that get released into the environment that heats up the earth, right? So that's another thing that a lot of vegans will say, which is true, like, so it's not just animal cruelty, it's like overall harm reduction. I'm reducing the harm of the animal, and I'm reducing harm of the environment, which directly reduces the harm of human beings. Right? Right. So I mean, that's another big thing. Uh-oh, you can hear an echo. Let me see if I could. Why do you hear echo? I don't know why you hear. Is there echo? Let me know. Yeah, let me know if there's an echo. Oh, you're just saying like there's not that many people watching, right? Oh, okay. Because sometimes, like, I don't know. I'm just trying to make sure. Because sometimes there's like this microphone echo effect that is annoying that can happen. But you're just saying like it's not too many people, which is fine. That's cool. People will watch later, or we could just have a small audience, or I could just be talking by myself. It's fine. No biggie. Okay, so yeah. So what else? Oh, it's figurative. Yeah. Health for me. Yeah, health. Yeah, I know several people who are vegan just for health, and they're like, yeah, that reducing animal cruelty and environmental. That's an added bonus, but I'm really just doing this because my doctor told me to do it, right? Or recommended this to me. And it is funny how you don't think you would do stuff, and then the doctor will be like, you need to do this or you're in trouble. And then you're just like, oh, okay, I'll do it. I actually have, for example, I have, not related, but kind of, just, what doctors will tell you. I have eczema, like, skin condition, very common skin condition. Mine's is pretty severe, where it actually affects all my skin, even my gums, it'll affect. So I like floss twice a day, and I use like a water, these things called water picks. Like you can buy them at like a pharmacy. Lots of people just use it as like a luxury, right? These water picks that you spray like water into the teeth, and it acts as like a floss. But I show up to the dentist. They're like, dude, you need to use this water pick. Because if you don't use, like, you need to like go above and beyond your dental health. You need to like brush your teeth like 3 times a day. You need to floss twice, and you need to use that water pick. And if you don't, your teeth will start falling out. And I'm like, okay. I don't want my teeth to fall. So I do the dental hygiene more than most people, but it's because I have sensitive gums due to my eczema. How random is that? But yeah, it's just funny how like a doctor will tell you something like you need to do this or you will be in trouble, and then you'll just do it. Like if the doctor's like, you need to stop eating meat. Like if you continue to eat like meat at this level, you will have a heart attack and die. And then it's funny how like you'll change pretty fast then. It's funny. Hello, Badger. I'm going to get a tattoo from my daughter for Daughter's Day. I'm gonna have to listen to you. Okay, no problem. Yep, see you later. It's Daughter's Day. Is that like because here in the United States of America, it's Father's Day. So that's cool. Yeah, I got some gifts from my daughter and wife. So that's good. We might do something later. Maybe. That's cool. The Jungle. Yep, I heard that. Read it, review it for us. Mm-hmm. I think I'm good. Okay. Yeah, I've heard of The Jungle. There's another book that's newer. What is it called? I think it's called like Eating Animals or something. And it's also one of those books some people read, and it's like it makes them vegan. It's more newer. I know somebody. I think that's what it's called. I think it's called Eating Animals, right? Because I know a few people that read that book and then they made them become a vegan, and they recommend like you should read that book and make a video out of it. So maybe. Okay, then Marcus Richardson, hello, says, my only concern is that humans aren't very good at predicting the consequences of our actions, so maybe veganism can lead to lower rates of something, which can lead to something else, etc., etc. Yeah, I don't. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I would beg to differ. I think human beings are very good at predicting. It's just we don't want to heed the warnings, or we don't have the will to do. Like, we can predict things very, like this whole climate change thing. That was predicted like in the 70s, right? When people was like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. Or other things of that nature. You know, I mean, I think we're actually very good at predicting things. I mean, the problem with humans is we don't have we don't have the will oftentimes to like act on those predictions. I think that's what I would say. The jungle had a greater impact. Yeah, it was a lot like. Yeah, I heard jungle had a huge impact. It was like, what's that other book by Rachel Carlson? I did a video on that one. Silent Spring. It was like that book, like that kind of effect that it had. Yeah, so I hear the jungle like really changed, like laws and stuff. It's ogre. I switched to mainly vegan diet a couple of years ago. It was a slow process. Watched the doc Dominion. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of famous documentaries that like, will change your body. There's a bunch of them. My wife was like, "You're gonna see all of these." I'm like, "Okay." And a lot of them I already saw. Another one I think is called Earthlings. That's another like really popular one, narrated by Joaquin Phoenix. I think the music is done by Moby. And that's like got very explicit scenes of like animal torture in factory farms and like zoos and circuses. There's a bunch of these kinds of films, which I'm down for. It's important to like see the reality of the situation. And some people need that. Yeah. And then Marcus, yeah, that's true. It seems once we get bogged down in one way, it's hard to change. Yeah, and I think like they're really popping these firecrackers. It's Juneteenth here in the United States of America. The celebration of the ending of slavery officially chattel slavery. It's now a federal holiday, but here in Memphis they've been celebrating it for decades. So people are having nice celebrations about that. You might hear some fireworks popping off. But yeah, I think it goes down to people kind of, they associate their identity with their ideas or like their ideologies or their opinions. And so when you question, when people start questioning your ideas of reality, or like what you think is supposed to be, when people attack that, then others take that as like an attack on their very identity. Like, people who eat meat, they like identify, yeah, I'm a meat eater. You can't tell me what to eat because that's what I am. Instead of just saying like, well, maybe I'm a meat eater because I was raised in this situation and I had, I learned all these behaviors, and it has very little to do with like who I am. Like I can change who I am, right? But people will associate, their ways of life with their very identity, and they don't, and that's why it's hard for people to change, right? I've done a lot of videos about that. But I do want to discuss or mention some things like, for I think one Kendra was talking about eat locally, right? Yeah, go to farmers markets, because there's this idea, there's this counter to veganism. It's like, well, at the end of the day, when you even if you grow vegetables, you still have to kill animals, right? Because if you like, say you grow a farm that just grows just a lot of like plant products, they still have to like kill the rodents and all the pests that are getting in the way, like all the insects that are attacking the plants. They have to kill all those people. I mean, all those animals. The gophers and the rodents and like even the snails. a lot of insects. All those species you have to kill to raise the plants. What's the difference, right? You hear that a lot. Like, you're still ultimately killing. Um, Here's the rain. I hope my electricity holds out. We'll see. This is very normal. You might be able to hear it. I think when it rained last time in one of my videos, you were able to hear it. So yeah. So I would like to talk about that. I mean, the first thing you think, I like to focus on is like, well, local farmers, they got like smaller plots of land, right? So they're killing less to grow their foods, right? Or you can even grow your own stuff, right, with your own gardens, which would drastically diminish the amount of species you have to, because at the end of the day, like some people got, like, there's gonna be insects or something that you're gonna have to like eliminate to grow your stuff. And so, like, I guess I would like to introduce the concept of, which is not an introduction, it's like harm reduction, like causing the least amount of harm, right? Because we do live in a world where, like, I would kind of argue like it's impossible to live without some sort of harm. I mean, just by the cruel reality of life, right? I would just say, like, with veganism, it's more about like causing the least amount of harm that you can, right? Right, because there's like a big difference between these animals in factory farms that are like skinned alive and like all this horrible shit, and just like killing a few snails to like grow a garden in your backyard, right? There's less suffering involved, is what I'm saying. You gotta think of it. It's about harm reduction, right? So I don't know. I think I see that as kind of like a false equivalency type of argument. And then Thermbot says, hello. I'm not sure that last point is fair, because the animals have to eat many more plants than if the human ate the plants directly. Yeah, it's not very fair, and I agree. But that argument is thrown out a lot by people who get kind of offended by veganism. They're like, oh well, you're still killing animals at the end of the day. It's like, yeah, but like you're saying, animals have to eat many more plants than if human ate the plants directly. I actually don't even know what point you're referring to. Or am I reading you correctly? Or are you addressing another point? I'm not sure. But let me know though if I confused what you were saying. But I think that's what you're saying. So there's that. So there's not like this 1-to-1 ratio, right? It's about reducing the amount of harm as you can, right? Like growing your own foods or like going to local farmers is going to have a less of a harmful impact, a drastically less harmful impact than like buying your food from Oscar Mayer or like Foster Farms, right? That's what it's about. It's not like this 1-to-1 ratio. Like it's either that or it's no, right? It's not as simple, right? And so that's what the philosophy. So the philosophy of veganism is a philosophy of harm reduction, right? That's what appeals to me. It's like being conscious of what you're doing, and like, and also being honest about it too, because a lot of people don't want to be honest about what they're really doing. And vegans are like, it's the same reason why I like feminism. It's kind of like this brutal honesty of like, no, actually, that's sexist. That's really sexist when you really think about it. The same thing with veganism. It's like, no, actually, you are, when you consume these these when you buy bologna at like Kroger or Safeway, these are two big Albertsons, two big grocery stores and grocery store chains in the United States. You are that is direct result of extreme suffering from animals, or you're directly harming the environment when you do that. So Thermbot says, like the plants to feed and raise a cow to eat, say 100 meat meals would be something like 500 vegan vegetable meals. Mm-hmm. The plants to feed, yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, so yeah, exactly right. Like to the cattle, they have to eat so much, and so you have to like constantly be generating that food. So it's like this massive. I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's a massive. You're just constantly producing so much. You're using so much resources to produce, and it's like it's counterproductive, right? As if to just say like, let's just eat plant-based meals. Like we would have to produce so less. We would just have to produce a lot less to like, and we would be eating even more healthier, right? So it's like you're producing less, and you're actually getting a better result nutritionally. Right, so you get right. That whole counter, which you hear it all the time from like people who are like, "Oh, those vegans are crazy," but like your Thermbot saying like, no, like think about it logically, right? Mm-hmm. And then another thing I wanted to bring up was, the whole like jerk factor, like because a lot of people say like, yeah, those vegans, they're just jerks. They always trying to moralize, and they're always trying to like make you feel guilty for what you eat. And that's just not all vegans. Right? And you can say that about anything. I hear that a lot too. They're like, yeah, I don't like vegans because I talk to vegans, and they're always trying to make you feel bad. And that's just not true. Like, Kate, I'm a living example of that. I married a vegan who did not guilt trip me at all, right? I made the decision myself. Not all vegans are like that. Now, there's of course there's vegans who are jerks, but there's like, there's a bunch of people who love eating meat who are assholes too, right? And then there's people who eat meat that are nice people, right? It's just any group of people, you're gonna meet your jerks and your assholes that are trying to. Of course, like I personally have met vegans who are like, oh, okay, you are kind of an asshole, and that's actually another reason why I also know vegans who it's like a lifestyle for them, in terms of like it's kind of like it's like Instagram, social media type of. It's just showing off. It's like, I guess the term we used to use, I don't know if it's still relevant, the hipster. It's people who are kind of like, because I know people like that too. And, you do encounter those, but they don't they don't make up the majority of vegans. But I will say, like, I do personally know people who say they're vegan, and they are vegan, but they don't give a shit about like animal cruelty or the environment or or like harm reduction or health. They just doing it just because it's like something they can use to be hip and cool and get likes on TikTok or whatever. I'm not saying that's not a thing. That is a thing. I know people like that. I'm like, you don't give a shit about animal cruelty, even though you say. But on the flip side, there's plenty of other vegans that I know personally who are like, oh, you really do care about this. Like, you really are, like, making the stance. Like, I love animals. I think animals are, all animals are, there's no reason, the pain of one animal is not any less than the pain of, a human being, which, I can definitely vibe with that. That's a moral issue I can vibe with. So yeah, but basically what I'm saying is that's just not the case, I mean, how many, and I always take it back to like Christians, like how many Christians actually, They say like, oh, I'm a follower of Jesus, but it's like, you don't care about what Jesus said. Like, you're constantly judging people. You're like, um, you're doing all types of immoral stuff. You don't love your neighbor. Like, what are you talking about? You're not a Christian. So I'm just saying, it's kind of like calling the kettle black, as the saying goes here in America. What is it, the pot calling the kettle black? It's like, all those vegans, they are more like, oh, please, like, you don't do that, or like, you don't know people that do that who are not vegan, right? That's another thing I want to address, like, that I hear a lot, where it's like, oh, all those vegans, all they do is moralize, and they judge people. They just judge people, and they're jerks, and like, that's definitely not true. You might have met a few that do that, but most don't do that. Okay, and that's from my personal experience. Okay, is there any other notes that I had here? So yeah, I just brought up like gardening, and so there's like all types of ways to garden, right? To reduce harm. I know people who live in condos who don't even have backyards, and they garden, like, they have these fancy setups where they have these bags, and they put the dirt in the bag and they hang it on the window, and then they grow food there. There's all types of ways to grow your own food, and the harm that they're doing is, eating food and staying healthy is much less than, if somebody were to go buy some bologna, Oscar Mayer bologna, right? Right. So that's another thing. Like, oh, I can't garden because I don't have any space. I mean, I don't know. That's a kind of a poor excuse. Or you can like visit some gardeners, or you can go to a community garden, or you can go to a farmer's market. And I go to a lot of farmers markets nowadays. And a lot of these farmers, they're local. They have these small plots. They use, they don't use chemicals, or, you go to the grocery store, it's like organic, buy organic, but just go to the farmer's market. They do the organic thing. I'm sure there are farmers that do the chemical shit, but I don't know. I don't go to those farmers, those local farmers. And then Cody says, I like to be informed so I can make the best decision. The lack of information about health, farming, and the environment was very eye-opening. Yeah, and I think that's most people, right? That's why it's important not to judge people, I think, to a certain degree. I'm down with the non-judgmental thing, because a lot of people just don't know, right? It's just, the thing is, so for me, like, what matters to me is what you do when you know, right? And I think some people disagree with that. Some people are like, you hurt me, but I can forgive people if they do something bad to me and they didn't realize what they were doing. I know, like, I mean, that's happened to me. I know that's kind of a thing that's easy to say, and like hard, when it actually happens to you. Okay, say that then, right? But I have done that. I'm like, well, you didn't realize that, or you didn't know. But I guess when somebody knows what's up, and then they still continue to do wrong, that's when I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I have my respect level for you kind of goes down. Like, for people who really kind of just rag on vegans, that to me is like, yeah, is that really, like, when somebody's doing that, my respect level for them kind of like drops drastically. I'm not gonna even try to pretend like it doesn't. It's like, because okay, you might have met like a jerk vegan, but you didn't really do your due diligence with the research, did you? And you really, when you saw, when somebody was offering you Dominion to watch, right? You were like, yeah, nah. I know people who watch those movies and they'll just laugh, because they're kind of like in a denial type of like, that's funny. I don't care about this. That was a lot like in college. I watched a lot of those movies in college with like people that would just have it in the background. They were like, that's funny. The animals getting killed. Fatality. It's like Mortal Kombat, right? And then at that point, it's like, okay, you're seeing this is happening, and you're not even like, it'll be one thing if you're like, I should change. I'm not going to be a vegan overnight. That's hard to do, but maybe they do have a point here. But when you're just like, yeah, those people are stupid, even though you're seeing it, you're seeing the reality of the situation. That is, to me, that's like, I don't know about that one. My respect level for you goes down. That's why I kind of like veganism as a philosophy. I like philosophies that kind of like kind of show you the truth of things, even though it's kind of hard to deal with. Because I'm all about like, because the truth can be hard, right? But I think kind of like the content of one's character. You really start to know the content of one's character when they know what's going on, and then what do they do then at that point. But when they don't know the information, that's a little different. I think I'm more forgivable with that. Okay, and then a third bot. Do you think factory farm meat is worse than meat, say, raised with care at a small mom and pop farm? Nope, I don't think it is. And so that's where I would think my wife would disagree, because I know farmers who raise cattle, and I don't think they're worse than they're the same as factory farms, because that's why I say, like, am I really a vegan? I don't know, because I don't think it's necessarily wrong, and you feel free to disagree. I'm not even going to debate you, because there's a point to be made against what I'm about to say, a valid point, I would say. Like, yeah, because like my boss, he grows. My boss, my coworkers, and like, managers that I have, right? Because I work for this enormous. FedEx is an enormous corporation, so I have multiple bosses, right? Managers, and I have a few who they have their own ranch. And they grow their own animals. I mean, they breed them, and they it's not like they don't have horrible lives. They have pretty good lives, but they do kill them prematurely. They don't die from old age. They eventually they grow up to like a certain age, and then the rancher goes and shoots them in the head. I mean, painless death, but premature death nonetheless. Now some vegans would be like, well, that's fucked up, right? You shouldn't be killing something just to eat it, right? And got a point, but I don't know. I think what I was gonna say was like, yeah, but what about the ancient people, like the indigenous people who did that, or like early, people who lived off the land and kind of raised cattle and or like animals and then ate them, goats and stuff. But that's kind of like not a real comparison, because nowadays, like, yeah, so they were like they were in the condition that they lived in, but you're not in that. I'm saying, like, me, who lives in like industrialized community. That's not like my only option, right? I do have the option to not eat animals, right? So I mean, these are the philosophical questions that we talk about. I don't think it's the same. I definitely don't think it's the same in terms of like small ranchers that grow. Yeah, it's not the same. But then you have to ask, but is it still right? Right? Is it still right? So that's a question that I would say no. Ultimately, Like, I mean, that's a you'd have to go really deep into that. Because then you would have to, you make an argument like, well, they wouldn't exist. Like, they, the rancher brought up this animal that would otherwise not exist. The animal grew up in a nice environment, very happy lifestyle. Probably wouldn't have been as happy as if they were like in the wild. Right? It's just that they just killed him prematurely, but painless death. Some people would say like, I don't, what's wrong with that? So there's, but then other people would. I mean, you can just go back and forth. The other people would be like, well, even they take it to Buddhists, like life is ultimately life is suffering. So to live is to suffer. So that that kind of thing is. To just bring something into the world to kill it is just, that's heartless in and of itself. So we could just keep going back and forth. I don't know, but that's an interesting point. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, Kendra says factory farm meat is unbelievably nasty. I won't go into it. Yeah, no, it's yeah, it's pretty disgusting. Some people disagree though. Like, I know people who will look at I know people who work in factory farms and they're like, it's fine. Then they'll eat the meat like after they work, and it's like, yeah. So I mean, not everybody agrees with that, but yeah, I see your point. I'm inclined to agree. Yeah, food is such a big part of human culture, plays an important role in connection. That's true. Food is a communion, right? Yeah, so you would really have to think about, like, because then it's an interesting thing to talk about. Like, okay, to say, like, to propose, like, okay, let's just get rid of factory farms. That's gone, and let's just go to the small ranchers. Kind of like what they did back in the day, early humanity, where they used to raise animals and just eat the animal. They'd let them graze freely, roam it, but then they would still kill them to eat them, right? And that was a very communal thing that humans did. But is that something that is right to do? Right? Yeah, like, should we, like, if we were to just go back to that, would that be fine? Now a vegan would say no, that would not be fine. Like, what we need to do is just eat plants. Yeah, like, plant-based foods, and let the animals just do their thing. But because some people will say, like, well, the raising of animals and domestication of animals, it's fine, it's interesting. Like, I know people who raise chickens. Like, yeah, I raise chickens. Like, it's fine. And then ultimately, when they reach a certain age, I kill them. And then there's some people who are like, yeah, I just raise chickens for eggs. That's all I do. I just have, eat the eggs. I don't eat the chicken. I just eat the egg. That's fine. But then they breed the chickens. But then you could make the argument, actually laying an egg is actually a painful process for a chicken. Like, it's painful for the chicken to lay the egg, right? So you could argue, like, well, if you're just eating the eggs you're causing the chicken pain all the damn time. And also breeding chicken, when a rooster breeds with a chicken, that's actually a very unpleasant experience for the chicken. Like, mating a behavior for chickens is very unpleasant, right? So they're not having a good time, right? So one could even say, like, well, you're not like directly killing the chicken, but you're kind of creating this life of suffering. For the chicken. So, and this is what the vegan perspective of it is, really forcing you to really think about, like, is that really a good thing that you should be doing? And then Cody, you say, yeah, I don't think it's right for myself. I can see the other point of view and respect the intentionality of folks who do. And that's where I'm kind of at. I'm kind of at that. So that's why I'm saying, like, yeah, I guess I'm probably not like a vegan, but I'm like, I respect vegans, and I do not, my consumption of meat is like probably like 2%. Like I'll still eat free. Like if somebody's giving me, like what you're saying, the communal aspect. If somebody's giving me some free meat to eat, you best believe I'm eating that shit. But I'm not gonna spend my money on it. And I don't eat meat at the house, is what I'm saying. And I do try to avoid the factory farms a lot. I don't have any I don't feel like, because all the local ranchers that I know who raise cattle, and I know people who raise cattle in their little ranches. I personally don't feel they're bad people. I do think they treat the animals nicely. They don't torture the animals. The only thing that they do is they do kill the animal prematurely. They shoot them with a gun. Which, if somebody were, like my wife or my daughter would say, yeah, that's pretty fucked up. I'm like, well, you're not wrong about that. But I see it kind of like, well, that's kind of the way. It's not the same to me. But I'm like you, Cody. I'm like, I respect that. I don't respect the big giant corporations that like treat animals less than dirt. Like that's fucked up, right? I'd say. But corporations in general are fucked up. Factory farms, big giant banks, insurance companies, they're all like fucked up. Real estate, like landlord agents, they're all fucked up. So they're not the exception. And okay, so let me see it there. Is there anything else I wanted to discuss? Let's see, did I hit up all the bases? Reducing some harm reduction. Speciesism. Yeah, I think I've said my piece, but I'll summarize. Yeah, I think in general, I'm I'm in line with veganism. But I'll read Thurmbot. You say, I think the quality of life of the animal is important. So factory farming is worse than animal raised kindly in captivity. It's worse than wild animal that is hunted and eaten. Yeah, I agree with that, right? And that's the type of things I think about. It's like, because it's like, well, they should let the animal roam free wild. I'm like, well, the life, an animal, wildlife, like living life wildly. I mean, that's a pretty cruel existence. Like, it would be. I think they probably would be more comfortable in a nice rancher who's like really like treating them nicely. They'd have a better life, right? Odds are very likely, as opposed to just living in the wild where they gotta fend for themselves and deal with all the cruel reality of the wild, right? So so you mentioned quality of life, and that's what my summary. Yeah, you might hear popping. That's fireworks. That's not that's not gunshots. That's fireworks because it's Juneteenth. Juneteenth weekend. Just don't worry, we're not getting shot up here. These is fireworks. People pop. But so I like the harm reduction aspect of veganism. And I'm not one of those people who thinks, although I would not say that I'm a vegan, I'm kind of, I hear the name for me, vegans, they say it's freegan. I love you heard that. Oh, you're a freegan. I'm like, what the hell is that? That means like you don't spend money on animal products or meat, but you'll consume it if it's offered to you for free. Okay, so I guess I'm a freegan. But I have great respect for vegans, and I do think they're right. I think the philosophy of veganism is an admirable and correct philosophy. I personally do, and I wish I was. So maybe one day I'll be strong enough to uphold the tenets of veganism. But I'm just being honest, and but I do respect vegans greatly. And of course there's like assholes who are vegan, but there's assholes who are they're meat eaters who are assholes too, right? You don't judge. But I do think, I think it's, that's all I want to say. The harm reduction aspect is awesome. It's all good. Okay. So if there is no other questions or comments or concerns, I think I'll end the stream here. Thanks for showing up. And if you were watching this later, not live, and you want to comment below, feel free. I'm always interacting, always good down for a philosophical discussion. Hello. Thanks for chatting, and happy Juneteenth. And in the United States of America, it's also Father's Day. So if you're into that, you're a daddy, like, happy Father's Day. Okay, see you later. Thanks, Nadia, for watching, and I'll see y'all later. Yeah, happy Juneteenth. Cool. Peace out. Bye-bye. See you next time.